The false consciousness is not the mind. Chapter 5. Sutra. Then Ananda arose from his seat, and in the midst of the great assembly, uncovered his right shoulder, placed his right knee on the ground, respectfully put his palms together, and said to the Buddha. Commentary. During the dialogue with the world-honored one, Ananda had spun in cycles and couldn't escape. He went around and around and still had not found the right road because he was using his discriminating conscious mind and mistaking it for his true mind. And so, from beginning to end, he was unable to enter into the realm of the mysterious. He didn't measure up. He didn't pass the test. Then Ananda arose from his seat. In the midst of the great assembly at that time, there were great bishops, great arhats, and great bodhisattvas in the Dharma assembly. He uncovered his right shoulder. This means he let the right side of his robe fall. The way the sash I am now wearing over my robe is designed to leave the right shoulder uncovered. In China, customs are such that exposing one's shoulder would not be considered respectful, but by Indian custom, uncover the right shoulder is a gesture of respect, especially in Buddhism. When he uncovered his right shoulder and placed his right knee on the ground, that represents the purity of body karma. The body cannot create evil karma in that position. He respectfully put his palms together. That represents the purity of mind karma, and said to the Buddha. That represents the purity of mouth karma. Thus, the purity of the three karmas of body, mouth, and mind are represented as Ananda requests Dharma of the Buddha. Sutra. I am the Tathagata's youngest cousin. I have received the Buddha's compassionate love and have left the home life, but I have been dependent on his affection, and as a consequence, have pursued erudition and am not yet without outflows. Commentary. Now, Ananda thinks over how he has spent his time since he has left the home life. He says, I am the Tathagata's youngest cousin. In Shakyamuni Buddha's family, there were 4 kings and 8 sons. His father was one of the 4 brothers, each of whom had 2 sons. Ananda was the youngest of them. I have received the Buddha's compassionate love and have left the home life. I followed the Buddha and left the home life. In leaving home, one leaves the home of ignorance, which could be said to be everyone's house. One leaves the home of the 3 realms, that is, realm of desire, the realm of form, and the formless realm. One leaves the home of affliction, and one leaves the worldly home, that is, the home of one's family. When you leave home, you leave these and many other kinds of homes. But although Ananda left his worldly home, he had not yet severed his emotional feelings. He still had not left the homes of ignorance and affliction, or the home of the 3 realms. But I have been dependent on his affection. Ananda confesses that he has relied too much on his family tie with the Tathagata. He allowed himself to be disobedient sometimes in order to get the Buddha's attention. He would sometimes act like a child and be deliberately rambunctious, or he would purposely not abide by the rules, and he expected the Buddha to sympathize with him, to take care of him. And of a consequence have pursued erudition, and am not yet without outflows. He concentrated on learning at the expense of samadhi. Ananda had reached the first stage of arhatship, but it is not until the 4th stage that one is without outflows. At the 4th stage, one puts an end to birth and death, does not have to flow back into the 3 realms, but in the 1st stage, outflows remain. Sutra. I could not overcome the Kapila mantra. I was spun around by it and sank in the house of prostitution, all because I did not know the location of the realm of reality. Commentary: I could not overcome the Kapila mantra. I was incapable of opposing the mantra that came from the Brahma heaven, which the religion of the yellow head used, that Devin Dharma of those side doors and outside ways. I didn't have enough strength to counteract it and was spun around by it and sank in the house of prostitution. The Devin mantra plunged me into confusion, and I sank as if drowning in the sea. There is another explanation, since the Chinese character for stand is also the word for urine. Ananda is indicating that he came in contact with something unclean. He went into the filthy brothel where women sold themselves. He found himself stuck there as if in a cesspool and could not extricate himself. If the Buddha had not used the Shurangama mantra to rescue him, Ananda would not have had the opportunity to compile the sutras. If the sutra store had been compiled at all, it would have been done by someone else. Ananda would have had no part in it. Fortunately, Shakyamuni Buddha used the Shurangama mantra to rescue him, so he was able to compile the Shurangama Sutra and give us a record of these causes and conditions, all because I did not know the location of the realm of reality. The realm of reality is another name for the true mind. Why did I sink in the house of prostitution? Because I did not know where the fundamental true mind is. To this very moment, Ananda is still trying to find a location for the mind. He's being boggled by his own intelligence. He keeps spinning around in it and doesn't know how to get out. Sutra: I only hope that the world honored one, out of great kindness and pity, will instruct us in the path of shamatha to guide the enchantikas and overthrow the lechas. Commentary: I only hope that the world honored one, out of great kindness and pity. Now I only have one wish, that the world honored one will extend his great compassion to rescue me from my suffering and bring me bliss. I hope the Buddha will instruct us in the path of shamatha to guide the enchantikas and overthrow the lechas. World honored one, teacher not only myself but all those in the great assembly who upon hearing the Dharma have given rise to doubts. Instruct us in how to develop concentration, show us a path to the cultivation of the Dharma door of stillness. Echantika is a Sanskrit word which is interpreted to mean insufficient faith. Enchantikas are those whose faith is deficient, and a deficiency of faith is the same as no faith at all. Echantikas are also said to be those who have burned up their good rules. What is left once their good rules are burned up? Bad roots. Dharma Master Tao Sheng once explained the Nirvana Sutra in China before the final volume had arrived from India. In the first half of the sutra, it says that Echantikas have no Buddha nature. Most Dharma Masters then explained the line as meaning that Echantikas cannot become Buddhas. Actually, in the final volume of the sutra, it says that Echantikas can also become Buddhas. But at that time, the final volume of the sutra was not known in China. Nevertheless, when Dharma Master Tao Sheng came to that passage of text in the first part of the sutra, he did not follow its apparent meaning, but explained instead that enchantikas can become Buddhas. As a result, the other Dharma masters opposed him, were jealous of him, and said that he had had the nerve to contradict the sutra's meaning and had done it just to be different. Actually, Dharma Master Tao Sheng wasn't saying the sutra was wrong or that the Buddha had spoken incorrectly. He understood the principle behind it, and although he had not seen the final volume of the sutra, he already realized that the Buddha could not have spoken the Dharma this way. But because jealousies had been aroused, no one came to listen to him explain sutras any longer. So he went to Suzhou near Shanghai, to Huqiao Mountain. There he lectured the Nirvana Sutra to the ropes. When he again reached the passage of text that said, Echantikas do not have the Buddha nature, he asked the ropes, I say Echantikas also have the Buddha nature. What do you say? Am I right or not? The ropes on the mountain bowed their heads in silent assent. So it is said, when Sheng, the Venerable, spoke the Dharma, even the ropes bowed their heads. Basically, of course, ropes are senseless things which cannot move, but even so, they agreed with Dharma Master Tao Sheng's explanation and so bowed their assent. There are reasons for this. I believe there were ghosts and spirits sitting on or sprawled out on the ropes. On second thought, they couldn't have been sprawled out because you have to sit up when you listen to sutras. When the Dharma Master asked his question, the ghosts and spirits were so exuberant in their agreement that they made the ropes shake. Or perhaps in past lives, these ropes had spiritual natures which were now hidden away in the casing of rock, and this is why they could register their agreement. So, when Sheng the Venerable spoke the Dharma, even the ropes bowed their heads. Still, enchantikas are extremely difficult to save. When you elucidate principle for them, they never quite believe you. Hey, they say, who ever heard of such a thing? No matter how well you speak Dharma for them, they don't believe you. They are like a Gautama who took non-acceptance as his doctrine. No matter what you said to him, he wouldn't listen, he wouldn't accept it. That's an enchantika. Lecha is a Sanskrit word which is interpreted to mean a fondness or for defilement. Lechas like unclean places. Lecha also means evil knowledge and views. Most people's knowledge and points of view are good, but these pupils are evil. They are solely intent upon doing wrong. They exude nothing but poisons and fluids, which are not only bad for them, but also influence others to imitate them. So we people should clean up a bit and not take special pleasure in filth. Another asked the Buddha to overcome the lechas and prevent people from falling victim to a fondness for unwholesome places from having such a problem. Sutra. After he had finished speaking, he placed his 5 limbs on the ground along with the entire great assembly. Then they stood on tiptoe, waiting attentively and thirstily to respectfully hear the instructions. Commentary. After he had finished speaking, he placed his 5 limbs on the ground. 5 limbs refer to his 2 hands, his 2 feet, and his head. In Buddhism, this is the most respectful gesture of all. He bowed along with the entire great assembly. Not only did Ananda bow to the Buddha after he finished making his request, everyone in the great assembly followed suit. Then they stood on tiptoe, waiting attentively and thirstily to respectfully hear the instructions. Attentively indicates that they listened carefully, intent upon what instructions the Buddha would give them upon the doctrine of samadhi which Ananda had requested. They were inexpressibly thirsty for the Dharma as if their mouths were parched and they were waiting for a drink of water. The wisdom life of the Dharma bodies All these people had dried up and withered, and they were waiting for the Buddha to pour the water of Dharma over them and nourish their Dharma bodies of wisdom life. The phrase on tiptoe refers to how people stretch up in readiness to listen when they are in the back of the room and wish to hear better. Those who compiled the sutras use these descriptive terms to indicate how happy these people were to hear the Dharma. They stood waiting. This also indicates that those far from the Buddha stood on tiptoe in order to get a better view of him as they waited for him to speak. Why do they want to see the Buddha? Because everyone is fond of the Buddha's 32 adorning hallmarks and 80 subtle characteristics, and everyone likes to gaze at him, including the great Bodhisattvas, great Arhats, great Bhikshus, and lay people in the Shurangama Dharma assembly. I believe they were of more or less the same mind as Ananda. It was because of the Buddha's 32 hallmarks that Ananda had left the home life, and it was probably because of the Buddha's hallmarks that the others in the assembly had come to hear the Dharma. The word respectfully is used to indicate again how the kings, the great ministers, the elders, and lay people all stood waiting with great reverence to hear the Buddha explain the doctrine of Samadhi. Sutra, then the world-honored one radiated forth from his face various kinds of light, dazzling light as brilliant as the hundreds of thousands of suns. Commentary. Then was when Ananda placed his 5 limbs on the ground, and the great assembly attentively, thirstily stood on tiptoe, waiting respectfully to hear the instruction. The world-honored one radiated forth from his face. The Chinese is mian men, literally face door. But this just refers to the face. You should not go looking for a door on the Buddha's face. He hasn't any doors on his face, just windows. His eyes are windows, and his nostrils are caves in which people can sit in meditation and cultivate. Not only is that possible in the Buddha's nostrils, it can be done in any one of ours as well. If you want to say there is a door, the mouth could be called a door, but there is no reason to stick to every word so closely. The Buddha emitted from his face various kinds of light, dazzling light as brilliant as hundreds of thousands of suns. The Buddha emitted not just one kind, but many kinds of light from his face. In general, there are 5 colors of light, but in the 5 colors, many color combinations can be distinguished. The Buddha's light was more powerful than a lightning flash, brighter than an electric light, as it radiates back and forth. The sunlight in the world we live in is very powerful, but the Buddha emitted light whose intensity was 1,000 times greater than the light of hundreds of thousands of suns. How much light would you say that was? When Ananda compiled the sutras, he described the Buddha's light this way because this was the way he himself had personally witnessed it. Sutra. The 6 kinds of quaking pervaded the Buddha realms, and thus lamps, as many as fine motes of dust, throughout the 10 directions appeared simultaneously. Commentary. The 6 kinds of quaking pervaded the Buddha realms. All the billions of worlds where there was a Buddha, not only our Saha world, but all the others, experienced the 6 kinds of earthquakes. 3 kinds involve movement: quaking, erupting, and heaving up. Quaking is the motion of the earth in an earthquake. Erupting refers to intermittent agitations which cause the earth to little by little gush forth like water from a fountain. Heave up refers to continual, violent upward movements of the earth. Sometimes the earth can be heaved up to form high places, and sometimes it can sink to form depressions. At present, our planet is in the midst of changes brought about by the six kinds of earthquakes. The other kinds of earthquakes, cracking, roaring, and striking, involve sound. Cracking is not the same as quaking, which is a simple movement of the earth. When there is cracking, whole sections of the earth are torn asunder. The earth splits apart and often rends whole building in the process. Roaring occurs when the earth emits sound unheard in the world. Striking occurs when the earth splits apart and the two faces of the crevasses strike against one another. The six kinds of earthquakes occur for various reasons. When someone in the world becomes a Buddha, when someone becomes enlightened but has not yet realized Buddhahood, that is, when he accomplished the results of a hardship, and when a demon king wishes to disturb the minds of people in the world. So there are good earthquakes and bad earthquakes. When they're good, that is, when a Buddha accomplishes the way or some achieves enlightenment. No matter how great a disturbance the six kinds of earthquakes cause, no one will be injured. When a demon king comes to display his demonic power and disturb the minds of people in the world, he can kill people and wreak destruction. When there is an earthquake in one country and many people perish, and then the same thing happens in another country, that is, a demon king who has decided to flex his muscles, all the people of the world, and extend the scope of his power. It is just order. It is just like a political demonstration. The demon king staged demonstrations for us people in order to say, take a look at how great my demonic powers are. I can overturn heaven and upset earth. Therefore, we should be careful to determine whether each experience we encounter is a good or bad situation, since there are many distinctions. Speaking of earthquakes, I remember experiencing an earthquake one night after my mother died. When I was practicing filial piety beside her grave, I was sitting in dhyana and everything was empty. There was no self and no others. When suddenly I felt a movement and agitation. I thought to myself, what is this demon that can shake my body this way? Its strength is certainly formidable. I didn't realize it was an earthquake. The next day, someone came to tell me there had been an earthquake, a very strange earthquake. During it, the well near where I sat had sprouted fire. This was a water well, not a volcano, and yet fire had come forth from it. There are many strange things in this world. I believe someone is thinking, I'm sure that beneath the well there was a vein of sulfur which fed a volcano. That is why the well spouted fire. Maybe that's the way it is. And thus, once the six kinds of earthquakes occurred, lands as many as five motes of dust throughout the 10 directions appeared simultaneously. How many fine motes of dust are there? They are uncountable, yet the lands which appeared were as incalculably numerous as dust-motes. The great Arhats, great Bodhisattvas, great Bhikshus, elders, lay people, and the king and his ministers all saw these lands appear simultaneously. What kind of experience would you say that was? Sutra, the Buddha's awesome spirit, caused all the realms to unite into a single realm. Commentary, the Buddha's awesome spirit. Shakyamuni Buddha used his awesome spiritual strength, the power of his spiritual penetrations, to cause all the realms, all the lands as many as the fine motes of dust, to unite into a single realm. Although the lands were innumerable, they all came together into one. For example, nowadays we can enlarge a very small photograph into a very large one and reduce a very large photograph into a very small one. Wouldn't you say that is a spiritual penetration? In the same way, Shakyamuni Buddha, by means of his spiritual power, made distant places close by reducing all the minor lands throughout the great trichiliocosm into a single one, as if he were reducing a photograph. And yet, though the lands were united into one, each remained perfectly intact in their original order, each still located in its respective position without being mixed up. The reason the Buddha brought all the worlds together was so that everyone in all the worlds could see and listen to him as he explained the inexpressibly wonderful Dharma. Sutra ends in these realms. All the great Bodhisattvas, each remaining in his own country, put their palms together and listened. Commentary. Shakyamuni Buddha brought all the lands and realms together into one because he wanted everyone to be able to listen to the explanation of the great Shurangama Samadhi, so that the Bodhisattvas in every land could come to understand this doctrine. So he emitted a great light from his face, a blazing light as brilliant as hundreds of thousands of suns, until every land was illumined. And in these realms, all the great Bodhisattvas, each remaining in his own country, put their palms together and listened to Shakyamuni Buddha speak Dharma and explain the Shurangama Sutra.